Hi, my name's Corey, and I run the Truly Evil Bob channel. On it, we play The Dead Unicorn. It's a live show we do every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Please, join us. But I know what you're saying. It's hard to get into these stories in the middle of it. No, it's not. You got yourself right here a recap. There are 5 players, 5 characters that you'll need to know about.
Hello, my name is Tarek, and I play Ahed Felstar. Ahed is a part of a tribe or a part of a Shadow Elf tribe that lives underneath the ground, and they sent him out for a covert mission to a similar place as the rest of the group. Well, I didn't trust anybody. I felt like they had a high amount of elves alongside of them, and I did not feel comfortable about that. And there was also a blue person. That's not something you see every day. So, suspicious. And they kind of won me over through some different trials that we went along together and survived through.
Okay, I'm Helen. I play Talia.
I respect her as a fellow researcher and somebody who's seeking knowledge.
She's a very curious character and has a lot of kind of information she's looking for. And so it will be interesting to see how all of those details and all of the stuff that she's been building up, all this research and kind of investigation that she's been doing will pay off later on down the road.
Hi, I'm Howard, and I play Nilavar.
He's very extremely helpful in one regard. Yeah, so he has his own kind of secrets that he's trying to work through. Ahed is aware of those secrets, and unbeknownst to us, there may be other people who have now become aware of his little secret.
The source of his magic, he's trying to pretend he's something other than what he is. And as a player, it's fun to watch him come up with his explanations of how he's doing stuff and being sneaky and concealing, and it's fun to imagine, his character actually pulling it off, or sometimes, not pulling it off so well.
I feel like there's a bit of interest and intrigue there on what is the larger story to tell with Nilavar.
Is he going to get caught by somebody at some point? Will somebody who doesn't approve of his particular flavor of magic figure it out, and will he have to face consequences for that? Or is he going to be able to keep it under the radar the whole time? I am Colin, and I play Lugaru, the fighter, who has recently started on his path to becoming a samurai.
He's just a really fun, nice guy, and he kind of seems not simple-minded. That's not the right phrase, but a little bit naive.
I like that Lugaru stays true to character all the time, being a literal, friendly good dog, and yet not a dog.
My name is Crystal, and I play Heseth.
No offense to the cat thief.
Our story begins when an old friend, Troy Kithis, shows up at the tavern. He says that he's been found out. He was a spy all this time, and now he needs Talia to help him escape the government.
Troy Kithis is a bad dude. I mean, not an evil dude. He's like a badass. He's extremely efficient with his crossbow. He's gotten us out of a few tight spots with that. Very sneaky with his attacks. Effective at getting into places that are locked. I don't know what it's going to be like once we drop him off at his destination, but hopefully some of us can pick up some skills from him before we part ways.
Troy Kithis is a spy, which Ahed, being a spy himself, isn't really concerned about. I feel like Troy Kithis has proved himself to be a trustworthy individual as far as he can tell at this point, and is willing to continue helping him as long as it does not impede his own pursuits.
Let's see, Troy Kithis. I definitely admire and respect that he's out getting the information that the rest of the world needs to know.
I don't trust Troy Kithis at all. I think Troy Kithis is shifty. I think he seems like a different type of shifty. He's like a politician to me. I think that he says what he needs to say, does what he needs to do, and he manipulates. And If it weren't for Talia, I'd be happy never seeing that guy again. I know he's the one who's paying us to protect him, but once that's done, I don't really feel a need to travel with him unless that just happens to be where the plot goes.
With the help of the party, they flee south, hoping to get across the border in time, but they are hunted by an assassin called the Demon's Eye, who has recruited Lugaru's old guildmates, the Monster Hunters.
Lugaru lost his father in an attack. He was betrayed by his friends and went off to find some new friends and fell in with the party in a dungeon delve. And along the way, encountered the assassin who had attacked and killed his father and started out on a revenge quest.
The Demon's Eye attacked us with Lugaru's ex-allies.
They've defeated the Monster Hunters before, but they're back. And now, with the help of the Demon's Eye, some of them have become undead.
She ambushed us once while we were resting out in the wild. She turned some corpses into undead, I think. She seems to be like a necromancer.
We had to deal with the revived guy who was even stronger than before. That was a big pain in the butt.
They learn of a dragon that appears in two wildly separate places in the world.
Now, currently, or until very recently, was hunting down a red dragon that had been terrorizing the countryside and apparently using a portal to travel between two important locations.
Well, we actually heard about the hill in the town that we came across after we left Quesquinton. But the reason why we headed over there in the first place was that we heard about this dragon who I knew had been frequenting Darokin quite a distance away. And we thought, maybe there's a portal over in this area.
And we were hoping that for some reason there was a dragon with a portal. And therefore, we're going to go to a hill where there might be a dragon with a portal next to it. And we figured that seemed like a good idea because we're bad at planning.
They flee across the hill.
We got to the hill because Talia was not the nicest person and basically stole a ride from a local across the river.
So the hill was an adventure in itself. It was covered in giant bees.
And then we had those really cool giant bees.
Giant bees. There were these mosquito bat creatures.
Blood-sucking bat bird things. Those were an inconvenience, but definitely unpleasant.
I remember there was a rumor about ogres, but I don't think we ever actually saw any.
They make it to an old monastery and a mausoleum.
And I met up with them at a mausoleum of sorts.
We saw some really cool stuff. We found some tombs. We came across this statue to a character named Alfax, this demon or demon lord or some sort of supreme evil being, and ended up diving into his temple and finding some other statues and some Alfax artifacts. So this place, this entire hill seemed to be permeated by the evil of probably Alfax, possibly also the dragon that was living there, and who knows what else.
And there was a bunch of undead attacking, so I got involved as best as I could.
There were ghouls. I think there were ghouls.
Wow, that's scary.
We lost a character, Malachi, on the hill.
Going into the monastery, they come upon their first real challenge. A horde of hobgoblins, priming themselves as an army to invade Galantry.
The hobgoblin attack, man, that was so. There was a point where we were all inside of this. Well, the majority of us were inside of this fort, and we had found this awesome courtyard with a pool that had special water inside of it that may have been magical. and one of our party members drank from it, and Heseth, Crystal's character, was paralyzed by it. And so, in order to try to get her to safety, or at least find some way to get the other part of the group to kind of commiserate and kind of come together and brainstorm about how we would fix it, had charged out to try to get their attention, and instead got the attention of a bunch of hobgoblins and goblins, who then proceeded to assault the entire group. Not a great look for Ahed, considering, but they were able to pull out an extremely difficult fight and make sure that nobody died in the process, which was pretty impressive to me. We were able to kind of come together as a group. Talia was a badass, blowing up a bunch of goblins and hobgoblins outside. Luguru kind of went down early.
He heroically saved his friend Talia from a hail of arrows that certainly would have killed her outright, and almost died in the process. And eventually, one day, she's going to learn to be grateful for that, I think.
Ahed managed to survive long enough, and then came back from the dead and rose and went all rage elf on everybody's asses, which was amazing. And everybody just kind of worked together and fought it through, and were able to survive, and that was pretty impressive. We found a dire wolf along the way that was pretty cool. He seemed pretty awesome.
Which we didn't fight, and through a natural 20, I believe, Luguru managed to befriend it with animal handling and has kept it with us ever since.
He has started on the formation of his wolf pack. He is now a wolf person with a wolf in tow. And that's pretty exciting.
Though he was very heavy to carry up cliff sides within the caves.
I appreciated, even though it would never have worked out from a logistics standpoint, that he wanted to tie himself to the dire wolf while it was being hauled up the side of the cliff so that he could keep it reassured, even though logistically that would just add his weight to the dire wolf. We don't have a pulley system that could disperse anything. So that was a terrible plan. At the same time, his one concern the entire time is my poor dog, who will one day probably be his mount.
Having a dire wolf around is kind of fun.
Delving deep into the monastery, they rescue people who have been captured by these goblins.
Everybody we saw that wasn't inherently evil, we were nice to, and they joined the party. Even if they were kind of evil, which I think that DeFilch guy probably is.
The first of which, Colin, a rogue, locked in a dungeon and tortured by the goblins.
So Colin DeFilch is this guy that we encountered in the dungeon. He was chained up and we rescued him, and he doesn't seem to be appropriately grateful for us pulling him out of the fire in that way. I have to say that I immediately didn't like the guy just because my name in real life is Colin and his name is Colin.
Colin DeFilch.
And that is just confusing enough for me that I immediately wanted him to die. So I decided that Luguru doesn't like him right off the bat.
I don't know, maybe he's an okay guy, but he really seems to only be out for himself.
He seemed pretty shifty, but he didn't betray us really, although he did get us into some trouble by being a greedy thief.
He is a suspicious character. He's been down in the vaults for perhaps longer than he should have, or that he could maintain himself in. And I feel like, or Ahed feels like, this guy is in it for as much money as he can pilfer, and then he's going to be completely out of it. So there's not a lot of love lost between the two characters.
The second, Gareth Ironheart, a dwarf with a lisp, who was captured by the goblins while he was adventuring there for his own glory, but now was forced to create weapons for the goblins themselves.
Gareth's a good guy. He seems to have a nice heart, and I admire his drive to prove himself.
Gareth is interesting. I feel a lot more kinship toward this guy. He's a bit ragey, and I feel like Ahed can commiserate with that kind of lack of self-preservation instinct. And he sees that there's a lot of courage inside of this guy. Even though he may get his butt kicked a few times, he's not going to get, kept down. And that's something that Ahed probably appreciates pretty well. Also, he's a dwarf. I'm a cave elf. There's something, we're both from the stone. You know what I mean?
Gareth Ironheart is he's an interesting little dude, a dwarven barbarian, I think. Seems to know his way around a hammer pretty well. Eager to run into a fight, which is great for Luru because he is usually the first one in the mix. So it's nice to have a little bit of a meat shield in there for the meat shield. He's an interesting character. I don't know much about him yet at this point, but I have a feeling that there's more to him than just his propensity to whack things with hammers.
The raging barbarian dwarf with the lisp, he is hilarious and I love him. And I believe as we were exploring the building, we found a trap the hard way. And then I followed our cat burglar, or literal cat burglar, down the trap to make sure she was okay. I think I was the only one who went down the trap sliding just fine. I think everybody else either bumbled into it or tried to use a rope that ran out.
Fought our way all the way down into the deepest dungeons of the place that was near what kind of looked like almost like a volcanic underground, where we were able to find a bunch of kobolds.
Moving deeper into the dungeon, they finally meet the dragon.
And then we were able to slay a giant dragon, and hopefully we'll be able to gain the benefits of that slaying and his treasure pile. And not only that, but his portal, which will help us get Troy Kithis to where he's trying to get.
We have killed the dragon, and now we're going to go through that portal and see what's on the other side.
If you never want to miss an episode of The Dead Unicorn, just hit the subscribe button and the bell, and YouTube will just take care of the rest.